The Gabby Petito case began like a dream, and ended like a nightmare that still lingers in the American psyche. A young couple chasing van life freedom across the country, capturing sunsets, laughter, and love for millions online. But somewhere between those picture-perfect moments, something went terribly wrong. And what followed wasn't just a disappearance. It was a chilling unraveling that exposed cracks beneath a carefully curated life, raising haunting questions that still echo today. In the summer of 2021, 22-year-old Gabby Petito set off on a cross-country road trip with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. They documented their journey on social media, presenting a life many envied. Bright smiles, scenic landscapes, and a sense of endless possibility. But behind the filters, there were signs of tension, fragments of unease that would later take on a far darker meaning. As the weeks passed, Gabby's family grew concerned. Communication became irregular. Text messages felt off, distant, unlike her usual tone. Then, suddenly, silence. Gabby was reported missing in September, and what followed was an explosion of attention unlike most missing person cases. The entire nation seemed to watch in real time as investigators raced against the clock. The turning point came when body camera footage from police in Utah surfaced. It showed Gabby visibly distressed after a domestic incident involving Brian. She was crying, anxious, apologetic. Brian appeared calm, composed. At the time, officers treated it as a minor dispute. But in hindsight, that footage became one of the most haunting pieces of the entire case. A moment that many now believe could have changed everything. As the search intensified, Brian Laundrie returned home to Florida without Gabby. He refused to speak to investigators. Days later, he disappeared himself. Now, there were two mysteries unfolding at once. Where was Gabby? And where was Brian? The case gripped the nation, fueled by social media sleuths who analyzed every post, every photo, every detail. Tips poured in from across the country. One critical lead came from a travel vlogger who discovered footage of Gabby's van parked near a remote campsite in Wyoming. That single clue narrowed the search dramatically. Soon after, authorities made a devastating discovery. Human remains were found in Grand Teton National Park. The confirmation came days later. It was Gabby. The cause of death was ruled a homicide by strangulation. At this point, the case took on an even darker tone. Brian Laundrie was now the primary person of interest, but he was still missing. A massive manhunt began in the Florida wilderness, with authorities searching dense swamps and wooded areas for weeks. The uncertainty was suffocating. Was he hiding? Was he alive? If you're finding this story as disturbing as it is compelling, make sure to subscribe to Shadow Files and stay with us, because what comes next only deepens the mystery. Eventually, Brian's remains were discovered in a nature reserve near his home. Alongside them was a notebook. Inside, a confession. He claimed responsibility for Gabby's death, stating it was an act of mercy after she was injured. But investigators and experts have questioned the credibility of that claim. The details didn't fully align with the evidence, leaving room for doubt and speculation. This brings us to the cold case clues that continue to haunt this story. First, the timeline. There are still gaps in Brian's movements during the final days of Gabby's life. Digital footprints, phone records, and witness statements paint an incomplete picture. Some believe there are missing pieces that have yet to surface. Second, the behavior captured on camera. That body cam footage remains one of the most debated aspects of the case. Was it a missed opportunity for intervention? Could things have turned out differently if the signs were recognized for what they were? Third, the notebook confession itself. While it appears to close the case on paper, Many argue it raises more questions than answers. Why confess in that way? Why not come forward earlier? And how much of it is truth versus an attempt to control the narrative even after death? Then there's the role of social media. Gabby's online presence played a major part in how quickly the case gained traction. But it also created a version of reality that may not have reflected what was truly happening behind the scenes. The contrast between the curated life and the tragic ending is one of the most unsettling elements of this entire story. Now, let's explore the theories that continue to circulate. The first theory is the most widely accepted, that Brian Laundrie killed Gabby during a violent altercation, then fled in panic. This aligns with the autopsy findings and the sequence of events leading up to her disappearance. It's a tragic but straightforward explanation. The second theory suggests a more complex dynamic, involving ongoing emotional or psychological conflict that escalated over time. Supporters of this theory point to the body cam footage and witness reports of arguments. They believe the situation was deteriorating long before the final incident. A third theory questions the confession itself. Some believe Brian's note may not tell the full truth. Was it written to protect someone? Was there more to the story that never came to light? While there's no concrete evidence to support these claims, the lack of complete clarity keeps these questions alive. And finally, there's the broader theory about systemic failure. Many argue that warning signs were present, but not fully understood or acted upon. This case has sparked nationwide conversations about domestic violence awareness, law enforcement response, and how we interpret distress signals in real time. The Gabby Petito case is not just a story about one tragic event. It's a reflection of how appearances can deceive, how quickly situations can escalate, and how difficult it can be to truly understand what's happening beneath the surface. As we reach the end of this investigation, one thing remains certain. Even with a confession, even with official conclusions, the emotional weight of this case hasn't faded. It lingers in the unanswered questions, the what-ifs, and the haunting realization that sometimes, the truth we're given isn't the whole story. If this case left you with questions, you're not alone. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think really happened in those final moments? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the darkest mysteries on Shadow Files. Because some stories may end, but the mystery never truly disappears.